All right. So for those who have sent me the information with regards to what page they would like to drive with information from a database and what the data points are, by now I responded to most of your assignments. But I want to take a moment to show you how this works, and hopefully I can get all the way to how you incorporate it into your JavaScript code. So I'm going to use an example from one of the students who is building a restaurant-based website. So what he wants to do is he wants to be able to pull information about the restaurants from the database, right? So that he doesn't have to hard code it. What I've done is I've gone ahead and create a database table for him. And let me see if I can find the what is known as the DDL, which is the data definition language for his table. One second. Just I'm trying to see if I can find the DDL itself. Um, tables. Okay. Copy and let me see if I can paste. Where can I paste it? Let's use Eclipse. I'm just going to open a random file. Nothing here new. I just need a new regular file, untitled text file. Good. So this is what a DDL for creating a table might look like. This is the name of the database. So I'm telling it to use that database. It's it's a a MySQL based database in AWS. Let me see if I have it open up here. Where's my console? Yeah, so cs298. That's what I called it. They did up my instance. Okay, let's continue. Then this is the table definition for this particular student. I call his table name DG Restaurant, and it has an ID. This is the primary key. It's going to be a sequence, and that's why I have auto increment here. So when you're making an insertion into this table, you don't include the ID. The database engine automatically sets the ID for you. But these are the other fields you can set. You can set the name. It's a string. My assumption is it's never going to be more than 255 characters long. I'm saying it's not null. That means it has to be set. You cannot set its value to null. Same thing with the logo. This is the URL of the image, not the image itself. Of course, we can store the image itself as binary content, but we're not doing that for this. The style of food for this restaurant: French cuisine, Japanese, Mexican, Chinese, whatever, American. The address, um, I just wanted to show a different data type. That's why I did text. Normally, text would be used for a large, like like when you are talking of a blurb, maybe the description or something like that, or a bio. Phone number, price range, vegetarian. Now, all this from here down are going to be booleans, and that's why I have them as single character. It will be yes or no, but in the API, we'll treat them as true or false. So vegetarian, whether it's if it's yes, then the restaurant supports vegetarian diet, vegan, whether you can dine in there, as in, actually sit there to eat, take out, delivery, and whether this record is active or not. So that's what the table looks like. I created what is known as a unique key. That means if there are X number of records in this table, all of their names must be different. Maybe that's true, maybe that's not true, because when you think about it, you can have multiple restaurants with different, that, you know, what's different about them is the location. But we just assume, for the sake of simplicity, the restaurants in this case are unique. All right. So, how do you interact when this student gave me all the information I needed? I created the API. I added it to the API, the one I'm using for my own the fan site, and so what I did was I went ahead, added that, and created some endpoints that you can use to interact, for example, with the restaurant. Now, if this is not your own project, please do not interact with these endpoints, because then you will be messing up his data. You don't want to do that. You will interact with the endpoints that are for your own, that is for your own table, and I'll provide the information for you as well. I'm going to introduce a tool called Curl, CURL. Normally, I use this tool from the command line. It's a tool that you can use to interact with the API. Basically, this thing, what I'm calling the API, is a Java code that I wrote that you can post data to, and it will store it in the table for you, or you can use to retrieve data from the table. From directly within JavaScript, you cannot interact with the database. So the way to go about it is to have what is known as a REST API, and use that to be the go between your JavaScript and the database tables. All right. So, for example, I could say curl. This is the online version. Actually, I've never used the online version before. I always use the command line, but I figured I did a search online, saw this one. I was trying to figure out, okay, I'm not sure if everybody has curl installed on their laptops, and especially if you're using a Windows laptop, you might not have curl. So the online version probably makes our life a lot easier. So curl dash x dash x is asking for the method, and I'll explain that. There are two methods that we care about for this instance. There is a get method, which helps us to get data from the API. And then there's the post method, which we can use to post data. For example, if you want to get a list of restaurants from this table, you use a get method. If you want to create a data, if you want to create a restaurant, you use the post method to post data to the API. Before we actually look, so this is hyphen x or minus x or dash x get. Let's try a publicly available URL. Let's just do https://www.google.com. Let's see what that gives us. I've not tried this on this site before, but okay. So basically, that just gives us the homepage of Google. You can curl any site at all, but that's not useful to us. Now the IP, the address for the API, I have it somewhere here. Where's my notepad here? Okay, 1 second. Okay, there we go. So So the API is hosted on one of my EC2 instances, and a few things to bear in mind. It's HTTP, not HTTPS. Okay, because I had said for this class we're not going to spend a dime. For me to use HTTPS, I have to sign up for a what is known as an SSL certificate, and I don't want to go into all that because then you have to sign up for a domain name and have the certificate assigned to a domain and all that. We don't need that. We can get by. So HTTP colon slash slash. Then this IP address is what Amazon actually assigned to my EC2 instance. Okay. The REST API is listening on port 8080. From last week, your HTTPD should be listening on port 80, right? This REST API, which is just a Java Tomcat code, Java code running off of Tomcat, is listening on port 8080. Okay. Now, for this particular student, the path is DPR. For my Chelsea fan site, the path is, I believe, player. All right. So for all the interactions for this particular student, all of this is going to stay the same. All right. What changes is what is referred to as the verb. The first verb we're going to see is the least verb. Excuse me. Least verb. Sorry. The list verb basically does that. It lists everything in the database table. Nothing else, just that. So if you were to run this, run, it returns what's currently in the database table. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we have 5 records in the database table. Okay, these were records I inserted before. Because it's a list, that means it could be one or more records. So it's an array. Let me back up. I'm not sure if I mentioned this before, but I hope for those of you that did JavaScript, that have done JavaScript maybe as a class, or that, well, that you understand what JSON is, JavaScript object notation. So this is JavaScript object notation, this format. All right. Each object here is a JSON object. That is everything between the curly braces is a JSON object. And when you have multiple of them of the same type, it's put inside an array. The array is the square bracket that's there. So because there are multiple, and because of course it's a list which could be one or more, we start with the square bracket. Each of the restaurant is stored as a JSON object. Object 1, object 2, object 3, object 4, and object 5. Yeah, the data there is similar because I was just creating them back to back. I think the only thing I was changing is just the name. I was being lazy. Don't be lazy like me. Okay. So that will give you the list. Now, for your JavaScript, this list is probably what you're looking for the most, because once you get the data from the database table, you can load it on your website. And I will show you how to do that using jQuery and Ajax. But before we get to that, another verb you can use is get. But get, when you use get, you're targeting a particular restaurant in this case. So you can say get ID equals, sorry, this is scrolling up and down. Let's say we want to get, this is ID 6, this is ID 7. Let's say we want to get ID 9, just because we can get ID 9. Now, the get returns one object, one JSON object, not an array, just one. And you see that there's no array, there's no angular bracket before and after. It's just a JSON object. All right. Now let's look at this real quick. The ID, the name, the logo, right, which is a URL to a logo I just pulled off of the internet. The style, this guy is French. The address, phone number, price range, $$ to $4. That is 1,000. Also, I think active is true, vegan is false, vegetarian is true. What's it called? Dining is true, takeout is true, and delivery is false. Remember, I said even though the where's that? These guys, vegan, dining, vegetarian, all of that, they are single characters here. So they will be either yes or no. The default is no. But in the API, we're going to treat them as Boolean. And if you notice, it's true without a quote around it. Okay. If you put a quote around it, or either a single or double quote around it, then that's a string. Okay. So now, another thing you could do is you might want to remove, maybe you created a record and you realize, oh no, I don't like that record. So another verb that you have is remove. And the remove verb takes the same parameter. You can say ID equals whatever the ID of the record is. So in this case, let's remove this record 9. Okay. All right, remove ID 9. Well, let me run it again. Okay, so now let's go back to get. I think it just did not update anything here because nothing changed. So if I do get, this should be emptied out. I would think this should be emptied out. Yeah, because it's no longer there. But we can get 10 because 10 should still be there. 10 is still there. And let's try list again. Okay. Ah, okay. I guess no, I don't want to sign up for anything. Copy. Okay. Let's see if maybe I can do this again. Okay. So it's cleared out. Okay, so here we go. List again, and that's 8. 9 is gone. So we can use the remove verb, remove, to remove a particular record. So let's do remove again. Remove question mark ID equals, let's remove 10. Okay. Oh, okay, I see. I didn't pay attention earlier. It's loaded the rest, what is left. So 10 is gone. This is 8, 7, 6, All right, those three are what's left. Now, the bigger one, which is what you will probably spend time on before you even um, include this, or yeah, include this in your JavaScript, is the create verb for creating records in the database. Okay. Now, if you notice, for all the others, we left it as get. Now, we want to change it to post, because now we're going to push a whole a good chunk of data to the API. And we want to change this to create. Okay. Create. The other thing is we need -d, and then, so basically it's curl -x post. So we are posting data. Then the URL, which is the same thing as before, but with the create verb. -d is the data, represents the data that we are sending to the endpoint. Okay. The data that we are sending to the endpoint is going to be a JSON data. So we have our opening parenthesis, curly braces, excuse me. And then really what we are sending is similar to all of this, except that we are not sending the ID. The ID is auto, remember in the database table, it says auto increment, right? So we don't send that. The database table supplies that for us. But all of this, we send it. Okay. So I can just copy this and paste it here and change the values. So excuse me a second again. Uh, People upstairs are making a lot of noise. What should we do? Let's do Olu Cafe. Cafe. Let's make this American. Let me look for an image. I think I use this in another one. Let me look for an image. What image do I want to use? This was the studios that I used before. Let me use Baskin Robbins. Paste, right? So an image will end when if you pick an image online, naturally you'll expect it to end in .jpg, .png, .tiff, .gif, or .tiff. But if you start seeing values after the extension, those are just parameters to the rendering server. You can remove them if you choose to. Okay, if I copy this image URL, I should still see my image. Paste. Okay, we're still Baskin Robbins there. Okay, American. I'll leave this address there. NY. Just changing that. 711, just to make something different. Let's change that a little bit. Active is true. So, for example, if you don't want to, you can have 20 rows in your database table, but you don't want to show 20, or maybe you don't like a particular one, you can set the value to active to false. Vegan, let's change this to true. I'm just going to leave all the others as that. It doesn't matter. Basically, it's an example. Okay. And my closing curly braces and my closing single quote, doesn't matter whether it's single quote or double quote, but it's actually it matters. If you notice, all my field names here have double quotes around them, and my values to have double quotes around them. That means my quote here must be single and here must be single. Now, if all my fields have single quotes around them and my values have single quotes around them, then I need to use double quote here and double quote here. Of course, I can mix and match, but then I have to make sure that I escape. It's called escaping. I have to make sure that I escape them properly because the computer is not going to understand. For example, if I have single quotes here, you know, for the style, single quote before and single quote after, it's not going to understand whether the single quote for this opening one here ends, or so it's important that your quotes are balanced. So run. Let's see. It says unsupported. Why is it not supported? Let me see. Cut, paste. I want to let me run a list because I'm surprised it's saying unsupported. I want to do a list. Let me see if it saved it or not. So that's 6. Hmm. Did I type something wrong? Let me see. I know I have one of the commands when I was creating. Hold on. Copy when I was creating the other records. La 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 la. New file. This was what I used when I was creating the other records. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So -h content type. I have to tell it that what I'm sending is a JSON. Excuse me. So here I'm telling it that the method is a post, right? But I also have to tell it that this data here, this chunk of data here, is a JSON data because the web server does not know what I'm sending unless I tell it. So I tell it what I'm sending by using what is known as the content type. Okay. And I tell it that it's application JSON because it's JSON. -h is just stands for header. All right, so let's run this again. Okay. All right. So it created it, a little cafe. Let's create a few more. Dominoes. Well, Dominoes is really not restaurant, but you get the gist. Um, I do not know if Domino's is Italian or not. I know they sell pizza, right? I'm just gonna leave all the others same. All right. My next record should be a 12. Right. So I got a 12 there. All right. So let me go back and do a list. Now, because I'm doing a list, I have to go back and do a get. Right. I do not need the header content application JSON when I'm doing a get. Because when I'm doing a get, I'm not sending the body. Okay. All I'm sending is the URL list. Okay, nothing else. I mean, there's nothing JSON there, nothing overly complicated. So the browser does not need the content. It doesn't need to know the content type. Of course, the browser is sending me back the content as JSON. All right. So if I do run, so now I have where are those new guys? So this is 11 and this is 12. All right. Okay. Now let's try and include. Let's try and um, let's try and put this in our JavaScript. Okay, let's put this in our JavaScript. Where is Windows?